Well, what is up, everyone? I hope you are doing fantastically well today. This is Raphael Garcia here on Saturday, October 2nd, 2021, and I'm hoping I'm not sounding as froggy as my throat feels. I'm a little hungover. It was a good night last night, one of my good friend's birthday, but that's another podcast episode for another day because today I am on episode 98 of Let's Talk Wrestling, and I have quite a bit to talk about because I've been gone for most of September. But I'm jumping back in right at the right time to talk about the WWE Draft that started last night. The first couple of weeks of NXT 2.0 and AEW as well. There's a lot to talk about across all three of those topics. But before I do, I want to take a minute to thank everyone who takes the time to listen to this show. We always appreciate the support that you give us. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our channels across social media. You can catch us on YouTube at MMA Ratings and on Instagram and Twitter at MMA Ratings Net in both spaces. You can hit us up at MMAratings.net or .com, where our flagship is always sitting strong and true. And myself, you can hit me at rgarcia_sports. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into this show. Because like I said, I have quite a bit to talk about tonight. I've been gone for a few weeks and so much has happened in professional wrestling. So let's start with WWE first, talking about the draft and just some of the momentum that WWE has been enjoying for the last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe. I want to talk about that too as well. So let's actually talk about the draft. And I have to pull it up because there's been some more draft announcements. I'm going to go ahead and go through all of them, probably, to be honest. But there's been some more developments. I want to make sure I capture them all as well, too. But the draft started last night. And, the draft is the draft. It has its place, but it's hard to really be invested in it simply because it feels like it doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't mean nearly as much as it did back in the past. And it's just something that they do to fill time, to move things around, to shake things up, as they may say. And it just doesn't feel as special anymore. And being honest, with this one being done this week, I don't have any expectations that is going to be a massive change. It's going to be a massive, really, difference long term. But, as always, I always try to give all of these promotions a benefit of a doubt. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the people who were drafted yesterday, and let's go ahead and have that conversation 1 second. So starting with Smackdown, they picked up Roman Reigns, Charlotte Flair, Drew McIntyre, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods. So yes, they split the New Day up again. Corbin, I'm definitely fucking not calling him Happy Corbin. Corbin and Madcap Moss, who is Riddick Moss. Yeah, stupid name change there. Hit Row, which is a pretty big one, and I'll be coming back to that in a moment. Naomi and Jeff Hardy. That's what they picked up, I think, in the first round, I guess, if you want to call it that. They've also drafted Aaliyah, Drew Gulak, Mace, Mansoor, Mustafa Ali, and Toni Storm. Aaliyah, who has been up on the main roster for God knows how long, still has not been used. And Toni Storm, who never gets television time as well. For Raw, they grabbed Big E, Bianca Belair, RK Bro, Edge, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki Ash, Keith, Bearcat Lee, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, Austin Theory, which I think is a good one, issues notwithstanding, Reggie, Akira Tozawa, the Alpha Academy, which is Otis and Chad Gable, Apollo Crews and Aziz, Doudrop, Drake Maverick, John Morrison, T-Bar, Nia Jax, R-Truth, and Zelina Vega. So there's really a lot to really talk about just there by itself. The frustration around splitting up the New Day is real. Why do they keep doing this? Why? They have the story of the New Day versus the Hurt Business right there for the telling, but clearly they pulled that off just for shits and giggles. Like, It just doesn't make any sense to me. And if you follow Sean Ross Sapp and a lot of his work over there at Fightful, there's been a lot of talks about I don't want to say demands that both Fox and USA have been making over WWE about who's on what show. But there is talk that Charlotte was kind of one of the ones that Fox highlighted as, hey, we want to bring her over. We want her on this show. So that's why she was moved. I'm okay with them moving Drew McIntyre, getting him away from Randy Orton, Bobby Lashley, and that whole Big E and that whole picture. I don't want him in the title picture any longer. At least not there. I could see him and Roman, having some work, but it is what it is. If they put him over Roman after the run that Reigns has been on, it really diminishes what Roman's been doing the last almost 2 years or so. Hit Row. So this one's pretty big to me because they're a group that everybody immediately latched on when they were put together in NXT, and it took me a little while to heat up to them. I did not like that freestyle shit that they were doing. That's just not my thing. Well, I mean, hip-hop is my thing, but that sucked. But as a group, I like them. I like Swerve. Top Dollar is legit. He looks like a big man that can work and talk. B-Fab, I think she has a really good look to her. Let's see how she improves in the ring. Adonis can be the workhorse of the group. The dude can really work in the ring. He sticks out of that group for me, almost like a little bit of a sore thumb, but the dude can work. Like, if you need someone out of a group that can work, it be the worker's worker, it's him. Swerve can work too, but Adonis can be that guy who can work and take losses and stuff like that. So I'm fan of that group as a whole, just from a makeup standpoint. But I want to see how they're going to be booked. Like, that's really my concern. And I'm sure plenty of people will throw out the idea that WWE is suddenly doing a great job of booking their wrestlers of color, which is 100% true. But there's still opportunity to raise an eyebrow, wondering how good they're going to do with a group like this. So I really want to keep an eye on that. I am pleased that they were drafted. I'm guessing Swerve has to drop that North American title, NXT North American title, to someone. I wonder who they're going to put that belt on. Hopefully not Joe Gacy. We'll see what that looks like over on NXT and probably in the next couple of coming weeks. So I'm pretty intrigued with that. I want to see what they're going to do, splitting up Mace and T-Bar as well. I hope that T-Bar goes back to the Dominik Dijakovic gimmick, for lack of a better term. The dude can work. He's a big man. He can work. He can talk. Let him do his thing without the Ascension 2.0 bullshit. So I want to see what he looks like. Mustafa Ali and Mansoor, I think they're a good tag team. I know WWE is slowly trying to rebuild its tag team division, so I hope they get some shine. Eventually I want to see Mustafa with a singles run. He could be a mid-card champion through and through, and like I said, he can work just as well as anyone on the roster. They almost had him at a point where he could have been the top champion. He was on such a run, but they just didn't do anything with him. I want to see what that looks like as well. Jeff Hardy, it's interesting. I put out a piece. I didn't write it, but a piece is getting published this afternoon about whether or not Jeff Hardy should get one final run as a champion. I think that there's honestly a space for that. People are always behind him, and I could see wrestling fans being excited about that because it's Jeff Hardy. I've always said he's overrated. Please don't come after me for that. But I would be okay with that going down and seeing what that looks like. So there's that for sure. Toni Storm, I hope she gets some shine. She has all of the tools to be a name for that women's division, and I'm surprised that they haven't done more with her already. And same with Aaliyah. She kind of has that look too. She's gotten a little bit better over her 7 years or so in NXT. So let's see what they can really do with her too. For Raw, let's see what they do with the women's division before I kind of speak on the Bianca Belair draft pick, because right now, they haven't said that Becky's coming over to Raw because Charlotte switched. They haven't said anything about that. But I hope they don't piss away this women's momentum. she is someone that they can really build this promotion around for years to come. I just hope that they don't fuck around and mess this up with her. I hate the fact, as I mentioned, I already hate the fact that they split Big E and the New Day, but Big E's still the top name right now. Edge, couldn't give two shits less about Edge being drafted. Never been an Edge guy, and I am not the biggest fan of his current run. It's good that he's back and that he's healthy and that he can get out there and perform like he wants to. That's fantastic, but he's not for me. Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley, again, that's another act that's not for me. Just like I was talking about Bianca Belair and hoping that they don't piss away her momentum, Rhea Ripley is someone that's a strong example of someone that they've pissed away her momentum 110%. She was super over with NXT when they brought her up. It's just been downhill from there, and I hope that they figure out a way to fix it. I am not a fan of the Nikki Ash gimmick. Anyone that's followed this show over the last few weeks has heard me talk about that, but they got a thing that's working for them, so best to them. Keith Lee, I just want Keith Lee yeeting people into the fifth row. That's it. Not asking for too much. I just want him running the guys down, running them over, smashing people left and right. That's all I want. Hopefully we get that. I don't know if he's going to be a heel or a face, but I want to see him get built up, and I want to see him just start destroying people. Rey and Dominic Mysterio, okay, whatever. I think they're going to split them, and Dominic's going to turn on his dad at some point. Austin Theory is someone I'm interested in. I've written a lot about AEW and how they've built their promotion around younger performers. They have a slew of people who are under 30, who are just at 30, who are top performers. I mean, I think Britt Baker just turned 30. Heyman's 29, MJF, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy. I think Max Caster just turned 30. There's so many different names that they have that they can continue to build around for long term who are young, and WWE didn't have that. That's what I think that they're going to be doing with NXT 2.0, and I'll be talking about that in a few minutes as well, too. But Austin Theory is someone that has it, and I know people will bring up his issues that came up during the speaking out movement, which is very true and should very, very well be a concern, just like with Matt Riddle, just like with Darby Allin, with Velveteen Dream. They got his ass out of there. But Austin Theory, he has the tools, so they're not going to do anything about it. Unfortunately, we have so many different stories, so many different examples of WWE not doing enough when it comes to these types of situations, and Austin Theory potentially is another one of those individuals. But he still has all the tools and the look of someone who can be a WWE star. So seeing him get called up, I'm looking forward to what they do with him, because the man can work. The rest of these picks for Raw, I don't really care about. I actually don't care about any of them. Alpha Academy, I want to see more of Chad Gable and Otis together. So there's that. But the rest of this, couldn't care one bit. I want to see a lot happen with this draft. It's an opportunity for them to continue with their positive momentum that they've really built over these last few weeks. But it has to make sense, and it has to make sense. It has to stick, and it has to have some stakes behind it. And that just isn't the Survivor Series match. Not those stakes, but it needs to have something around it where these picks matter and they have long-term viability. So as I've said a couple times already, WWE has been they've had a little bit of a run going for them these last few weeks. And I think a lot of that really, they've been building, how can I say this? They've had to do something because AEW was killing them from a excitement standpoint. People were definitely excited to see Dynamite each and every week, and Raw was missable television. Smackdown was missable television. And what they began to do, they gave people reasons to watch. And I say that slowly in that tone because it's not 100% true, but they were trying to do that with Big E's cash in, with the match with Roman Reigns, with the match with Bobby Lashley this week. I wonder how long they can keep that up. and how they can tell those stories to keep that up. But I can see that they made a concerted adjustment these last 3 weeks or so, to some varying degrees of success. I think they had 1.7 million viewers this past week, and they've improved their demo performance. That's what everyone wants to talk about. They've improved their demo performance versus AEW in 2 of those 3 weeks. And I'm also going to ask the question, why on earth do we compare the demographics of a show that comes on Monday against Monday Night Football? Why do we compare that to a show that comes on Wednesday where there isn't any real competition? I don't get that. Even if you wanted to say basketball on Wednesdays, because we're heading into basketball season in a couple weeks, that is a competition point for Dynamite. I don't think those audiences don't overlap, in my opinion. So it's complete. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people who would watch pro wrestling, who watch football and would choose football first during the football season, especially now with, we're 4 weeks into the season. Things are heating up, as we were saying in NBA street lingo. That demographic is completely different than the NBA demographic that I don't think would watch AEW. Maybe it's just me, but I find it dishonest to compare the 2 shows against each other, 2 different demos against each other. Now, if Dynamite was on Mondays and they were blowing them out the water, then it would be a different conversation. But I just don't. I think it's stupid. I think it's just one more point of tribalism that we try to stick to to make our conversations around professional wrestling more interesting, and I think it's stupid. But that's just my opinion. I'll move on from there. I didn't even have that down as a agenda item today, but yeah, that's my rant. The Hurt Business is back together. Everyone should be excited for that. There was no reason why they were split up to begin with. And putting them back together, I hope that we see some long-term play there. I'm looking forward to more out of that. Roman Reigns, he's been excelling. I mean, this last week, he had, who did he have at Extreme Rules? He had Finn Balor at Extreme Rules. He had Montez Ford at Smackdown last week. He had Big E and Bobby Lashley in a triple threat the week, like that Monday, like not this past Monday, but the Monday before. The man's been working. The man's been doing some work, and I am a fan of it. He has a match with Lesnar coming up on the 22nd at Crown Jewel. We'll probably be talking about that as we get closer to that show. But there's a lot to really unpack about how good his run has been over these last few weeks. There's no denying that. If you can't look at what Roman's been doing and say, you know what, this is a career-defining run for him, then I'm sorry, but you may not be the wrestling fan that you claim to be. But he definitely deserves a tip of the hat for what he's been doing and how WWE's been booking him and how he's stepped up to that role. I want to see more of the women from NXT, hopefully if they get called up. Right. Like, looking at this first night, no one from NXT has been drafted up. None of the women have. I think Austin Theory is the only name in Hit Row, which has B-Fab. I want to see Io Shirai get drafted. I would like to see Raquel Gonzalez get drafted as well, because I don't think that they're going to... Zoe Stark, I don't think that they're going to... The NXT is not... Like, the NXT that we see today is not going to promote those types of women. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of roll into that now. But I'm concerned about that because I want to see more from the women's division. I want to see more Shayna Baszler. They finally split her from Nia Jax, and she's someone, in my opinion, that could be leveraged to fully begin rebuilding this women's division on the main roster if they use her right. So let's see what that looks like if she gets drafted. Hopefully she gets drafted over to SmackDown as well, too. Get her away from Nia Jax. Get her away from Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley and Alexa Bliss and all that. And let's see what kind of that looks like. NXT 2.0. So we're 3 weeks into the revamp, and there's things about 2.0 that I like. There's things I don't like. I see what they're trying to do. They've done a lot of work from the production standpoint that I like. Those, except for the camera cuts. We're not even going to talk about that. But the lighting, I like the studio setting that they've put together that looks kind of like the NWA setup, which I like. I actually like that setup. So I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of the brighter colors, the brighter ring, the brighter lights itself. It makes it look more like a show, like a sporting event, rather than the lights out dark motif that they had looked more like a grappling gym, like that I go to. Nothing fancy about that, but it didn't fit the idea that this is a big time venue. This is a big time wrestling event. So I like what they've made. I like the changes that they've made there. I'm concerned about the booking of the women in NXT. And this past week, for example, this past week was dubbed Ladies' Night in NXT, but they were booked more like this eye candy night. I mean, we got plenty of toxic attraction. I think we got them across 3 different segments. Is her name Cora Jade? Yeah, they had her and her boyfriend. I can't think of her boyfriend's name, but that's like the story like they're pushing with her and like being someone's girlfriend. Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis, they had that whole segment. I mean, it's definitely more about eye candy than it is about women getting in there and being the top performers on the brand. As much as I love Gigi Dolan, good Lord, do I love Priscilla Kelly. I think JC Jane has some. She's going to be pretty good there too as well. I'm not a fan of Mandy Rose, and as much as they try to force her down everyone's throat, I wonder if it's going to work. I can see her in this brand, this version of her, having a run. But the whole point of her run is I'm a beautiful woman, so that makes me the best, which is stupid. It's as dumb as it sounds. If they're leaning on that to be what the draw is for her, then it's unfortunate that that's kind of the route that they're going to. Because it tells you how they're going to book the rest of the women's division. It makes me concerned about the names like Io Shirai, like a Saray, who we have not seen yet, like Raquel Gonzalez. We've barely seen any of her. She had one match, and then she had one match where her and Frankie Monet didn't get to perform like they wanted to. After it was pushed back for 3 weeks, Frankie Monet loses. She's beat up on the way out the ring. Then Raquel Gonzalez gets attacked. We haven't seen Ember Moon yet. We haven't seen... I don't know if Armani Miller has had a match on NXT yet in the rebrand. Lash Legend, whatever. I just am not concerned. I am concerned with how the women are being booked, and we're going to have to see what it looks like. The thing I am enjoying about NXT 2.0 is that they are embracing some of the younger names on the roster. Carmelo Hayes, Odyssey Jones. I don't know how old he is, but he's a new face. Grayson Waller. Braun Breaker is going to be a effing star. I think Ivy Nile is going to be good as well, too. I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. But the whole point is there's a need to better highlight these younger names and to better highlight these newer stars, because you can't keep rolling Goldberg's ass out there. You can't keep rolling Edge out there. John Cena, all of them, you can't keep rolling them out 15, 20 years down the line if you don't build up some bigger stars. And that's definitely where AEW is beating the hell out of WWE and is showing. So my verdict is still out right now. I'm going to give it some time, 6 weeks, 6 months, and kind of before I really dive into some thoughts about it. I was attempting to write some pieces on it, and I couldn't really kind of put words together because I'm not sure yet. So let's see what it looks like over long term, and hopefully how it plays out. I think there's opportunity here, and anyone who flat out says it's bad or something like that, they're fucking full of shit. And they wouldn't say anything good about WWE if someone had a gun to their head. There are some good things about it. There's definitely some bad about it, and I'm going to keep letting it kind of, for lack of a better term, I'm going to let it play out. Let's see what happens. So I want to move over to talking about AEW next. There's so much going on there, so much good wrestling, so much to be excited about. So let's go ahead and kind of dive right on into that, where we can start with talking about the the Bryan Danielson Kenny Omega match. I just thought that this was excellent. 30 minutes, time limit draw. I wouldn't have booked it any differently. I think they did exactly what they needed to do to keep this feud going. And it wasn't like the WWE method of causing a distraction finish or a DQ finish to keep it going. You know, this is a viable reason where you don't know who the better man is yet. So we have to keep the match going. We have to keep the series going to see what's next. And I liked that. This is as much must see from a wrestling standpoint as there's been in a very long time, at least on free television. There's been a lot of great pay-per-view matches over the years, but this one is something else, and you have to go out of your way to watch it. Definitely go out of your way to watch that. Kenny Omega has been on a run. He deserves that number one position in PWI, and this man has been putting together the run of all runs for 2021. Sammy Guevara defeating Miro. I think that this is a good use of Sammy Guevara. I would like to see, again, like I keep saying, I want to see where it goes, because he's one of those youthful guys that can be a pillar of AEW, a homegrown name who can be a featured star in this promotion for 20 years if they keep him for that amount of time. And that's saying something. Imagine if you had your franchise team has someone that they know is good, someone that is championship caliber, that they can build around for 20 years. That's amazing, and that's what a lot of AEW has with multiple people on their roster. So seeing Sammy defeat Miro was an important moment. I am not mad at the way that they've used Miro to build up this title. I just wonder what they're going to do with him next, because they can't put him directly into the title picture. They have the Casino Battle Royal ladder match next week. It's called Casino ladder match next week. And I don't know if Miro's going to be in it. I don't think they've released the names of anyone who's going to be in it yet. But the dude he's presented himself as a star for the last couple months. The video game stuff wasn't working at first, but he is definitely looking more the part of a big time attraction for AEW, and I want to see what they do with him next. And as I always say, I talk about things I like about AEW, things I do not like. One thing I do not like is this fucking Dan Lambert gimmick. And it's not about him. I know he's a big pro wrestling fan. It's not about him trying to get heat or trying to do all this other stuff. He's just not. It just doesn't work for me. It just does. Like, why are they having him speak for Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky? They got over on their own without having someone speak for them. Now they got to have Dan Lambert speak for them. The only thing that could come from this is if they get something out of Paige Van Zandt, maybe Jorge Masvidal, as a pro wrestler, that people know them. But beyond that, what is the purpose of this? It's stupid to me. I certainly don't want to see them fighting Jake Hager and Chris Jericho. I can see much less of them on my TV. So at the end of the day, what is the point of this? It's stupid to me. And his wokeness and all the other bullshit that he talks about, I think is dumb. I'm just not the target audience. It's just not for me. MJF, I wanted to talk about MJF and Max Caster because I listen to MJF's promos and they do get a chuckle out of me sometimes when he's a habitual line stepper, continuing to push the envelope about what he's talking about. But I want to know, how is it different for what Max Caster said that got him suspended? I want to have that conversation. I don't know if it's a conversation that could be held. Probably can't be done in nuance on social media. But Max said some ridiculous shit and got suspended. People really kind of turned on him for that. MJF says ridiculous shit and he's getting heat. So what's really the difference between the two? I really want to kind of ask that. And if something, I want to see what, I want to ask that question one day, and I know I'm going to get a lot of blowback for it, but I really wonder what that conversation is like. The women's division over on AEW is really bubbling. They just had a big match this past week with Jade Cargill, Thunder Rosa, and Nyla Rose, where Jade Cargill got the win. But again, I do not want her anywhere near Britt Baker. They are not taking that title off of Britt Baker anytime soon. And I am tired of her. I'm tired of her, period. But they're not taking that belt off her anytime soon. So I don't want to see Jay go up against her next just to lose. We know how that's going to play out. It's just not for me. Like, if someone's going to beat her, I want them to beat her. I want Thunder Rosa to beat her. I don't think that's the route they're going to go. Big Swole. I mean, Thunder Rosa and Big Swole can barely even get on consistent Dynamite or Rampage booking. So I don't know. Let's just see how it plays out. But I do not want to see Jade going up against Britt Baker at this moment, because I don't think it's going to play out well for her. I think she's going to lose that match. That's not really what I want to see right now. AEW, we're continuing that diversity and inclusion conversation around AEW. They brought in Darius Lockhart this week. They signed Lee Moriarty a couple weeks ago. So let's see what they continue to do. I know that they hear people. I know that they see people talking about it all the time. Let's see if they attempt to make any changes. If they don't, we can hold them accountable for that. I hope that they do, though, because they have a very diverse roster and a very talented, diverse roster. But they have to leverage it more, because there's the growing sentiment of not seeing enough black men in the black singles performers on the show is true. The sentiment about not seeing enough women of color consistently is true. So I really hope that there is some improvement there, because the AEW demographic is different than WWE. I could definitely, having gone to shows for both promotions, being at an AEW show, I was definitely one of the only, well, not one of the only black people, but in my section, I easily was. There was 3 of us in my section. But it is a different vibe, for better or for worse. And you do want to see that change, because the demographics of wrestling are not just white men. There's a bunch of people across different spectrums who enjoy this industry, and they should all be represented in some way or form, some form or fashion on the show. AEW, they hear people talking about it, and they need to make some shifts over time. Last thing I wanted to talk about, the other developments. Trish Adora, she signed with Ring of Honor. That's a big signing. I'm surprised that AEW didn't grab her, but that is a big signing, because Trish Adora is she's probably the top black prospect in wrestling that's not in one of the major brands. It would either be her, Lee, or Darius, if you're going to have a conversation about who's the top. But Trish definitely deserves this. She had a strong run in the women's Ring of Honor Championship tournament, losing in the semis. I think she's something special, and she's a DC native, and I hope to get to see her perform live at some point in time. She's actually one of the first people whose merch I've brought. Probably going to buy some more from her, but she's a star in the making. MLW, they have Fightland 2 this week, which is I wanted to go to, but I got called into work. But Jacob Fatu and Alex Hammerstone are having a champion versus champion match. They've both held their belts for 800 plus days. I think 849, 839, or 819, something like that, respectively. It's going to be a big match, and I can't wait to see that as well, too. Unfortunately, if you're not there live, You have to watch it next week when it airs on Vice. So I got to figure out how I'm going to watch that. But this has a big fight feel around it, and I can't wait to see and hear about what comes out of that show. But with that in mind, we're going to bring a close to this show. Let's Talk Wrestling, episode number 98. I am Raphael Garcia. As always, I appreciate your time listening to the show. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe this weekend. Get vaccinated. Wear your mask. Let's get rid of COVID-19 so we can have more fun than we're currently having. I appreciate you, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend.